Today I'm sitting down with Joseph Mamone from #basketball. Let's go balls deep.
I could bet all of the riches that I ever had.
Welcome to another episode of the Balls Deep Fantasy Basketball podcast, brought to you by FBIBasketball.com. Head over to the website, check out all of our content over there. I am your host, Adam King, at AdamKing91 on Twitter is where you can find me. We're continuing through with the Analyst Interview series. Today I've got another Aussie. Always nice to have an Aussie, so we can do it at a normal sort of a time and not have to go wacky and line up time zones. Joseph, as I said, Mamone, but I'm going to say Mamone just because it's easier from #basketball. Joe, how are you, man?
Mate, you almost sound Italian with that pronunciation of Mamone. You nailed it.
I do my best, do my very best. Joe has a new microphone for this show, so that's very exciting that we're getting to hear his new setup. Puts mine to shame, so I have to go and do some research and upgrade a little bit. So, Joe, I don't think we've ever been on a show together. Not that I'm aware of anyway. We might have been on something together, but you're obviously, as I said, you're from #basketball, but a lot of sports. You cover a lot of sports with #. Now, there might be a few people that are listening that aren't super familiar with what #basketball is and what it is exactly that you cover. So before we get into the journey, that sort of thing, do you want to just give people a bit of an idea of what the service is that you provide?
Yeah, I'm really bad at selling it, so I'll do my best. It's basically it started out as just a website that I just started basically for myself to use. I built tools just to help me be better at fantasy basketball. And then I started sharing it with people. It sort of got some traction, and now I've kept on working on it, and now it's become like a pretty big website. But it's got website with projections. I do some dynasty stuff. I've made some tools on there, so there's some league tools where you can import your league. There's a draft tracker, matchup planner. There's some schedule analysis. So it's basically my little corner of the internet where I just make stuff and people seem to like it, and then they use it as well. So
yeah, I use it. I know a lot of people do use it. So I guess for those that, I mean, most people that play fantasy basketball would be familiar with Basketball Monster and using that for projections. It's a similar sort of thing to that, I guess, if people are wondering, but with its own tweaks and its own differences. And as you said, it was just a passion, which it is for a lot of us. So for you, the first question we sort of normally talk about is how you got to where you are now and what your journey has been. Like, was doing fantasy basketball or fantasy sports, was that always on the cards? It was always part of the plan, or it was just something you sort of fell into a little bit later in life?
Well, I've been playing fantasy sports, I think, since basically the start of uni. So I've been playing it now I'm showing my age now, but I've been playing for about 18 years now with this group of mates. I remember the first time I pitched it to my mates, I was saying, how about we try this fantasy thing? So because we've all been massive NBA fans, we've all played basketball together in our younger days. So I pitched the idea to them. First year we started up, I was commissioner of it. As a young person, you think you know more than everyone else. So I tried to make a points league scoring system using every single category available.
Yeah.
Okay. It did not end well. No one knew what they were doing. I didn't know what I was doing. People sort of lost interest halfway through it. But then the next season we went back to 9-cat, and we've stuck with it ever since. And we've been playing in the same league together for basically 18 years. So that's where my sort of obsession with fantasy started.
Yeah.
And then I kind of I mix my two passions because I'm a software developer in my main job.
Okay.
So I build software for a living. So there was a point where I started doing freelance on the side a little bit, just making websites for other people, just to sort of help pay for our wedding. Which, looking back and seeing how much we pay for our wedding, I was like, why do we spend so much on it? But yeah, you probably had the same thoughts.
Look, I'm sure. Yeah, I was sort of, well, not lucky, I suppose, but for my wedding, so my wife had been married previously, so had the big wedding. So we had a fairly small wedding, which was good. All we had at the reception was the bridal party and immediate family, so our parents and grandparents. That was it. So I think we had maybe, it's 17 years ago now, but I think we only had maybe 15 to 20 people at the reception. So it wasn't very expensive, which was nice. We just put all the money towards a big honeymoon. So
yeah, my wife and I occasionally just talk about it. It's like, if we would have done it again, we would have just done a backyard wedding and put that money towards a house or something.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are in that boat. So the next question is usually, what do you do outside of fantasy basketball? You've already answered that. Software development. So you mentioned you went to uni. So software development, was that always what you were looking to get into as an adult?
Yeah, I as a kid, sort of growing up on the internet, it's basically what I've wanted to do for ever since I was maybe 15-year-old kid. So back when we were at uni, the courses were a bit slow in teaching modern frameworks and modern tech stuff. So all my learning is self-taught. So I went to uni to do a commerce degree with a marketing major. So it's almost completely different to what I do for a living now. But it helps with stuff like building your own websites and knowing how to build a product and sort of how to market it and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I don't think it's not uncommon, I don't think, for people to do something at uni or college or whatever it is and then go down a different path. I think a few of the analysts that I've spoken to have done that. They did something. I mean, Josh Lloyd's a good example. He was a pharmacist as a professional, and then he just had enough. And so, I'm going to do fantasy basketball now. So, not super uncommon, I don't think. So you obviously IT and that sort of thing has been a passion of yours for quite a long time. Would you call yourself a gamer or not?
I used to be, but I kind of had to stop since I started sort of doing my website. My 5-year-old daughter is a bigger gamer than me now, and my wife is a bigger gamer than me now. So they put me to shame when it comes to that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you were a gamer, I'm assuming, back in your youth, which was a while ago, not as far back as me, but a while ago. If you look back and think, what were the games you really enjoyed playing growing up? Would any come to mind?
Oh, mostly sports games, to be honest. Dead Space was a good one. It's a sort of a thriller kind of game. They just remade it. So I had a bit of fun playing the remake. Sort of the nostalgia kicks in where you're playing games again, the same game, but just nicer graphics.
Yeah.
Basically, those ones. Gears of War, not a good one to play. Yeah.
Okay. But sports games, so as in NBA 2K or like those sorts of sports games?
Yeah. I had I was really into 2K back in the early days. I had a top 20 global ranking at one point.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was a grind just to keep those rankings because you have to keep on playing online against people just to keep it up. If you don't play for a week, then your ranking goes down. Yeah. Okay. So it was hard to keep up.
Yeah, and easier, I suppose, when you're younger. But now that, as you said, you've got a job and you've got the basketball stuff, and you've got a 5-year-old daughter who I'm sure keeps you quite busy. For me, it was I mean, if I think of when I was a gamer, I was never a gamer as such, but it was probably in the late 90s is when I sort of had time to play a lot of games. And for us, there was a lot of Nintendo. So a lot of Mario, Mario Kart, Super Smash Brothers, Mortal Kombat, those sorts of things. And luckily, Mario never goes out of fashion, obviously. So there's a lot of new Mario games for me to play and play with my kids. Well, I play a little bit with my kids, but the speed that they play at frustrates me. They can't play at the same level. So it's a bit annoying playing games with them. But I'll play alongside them. That's fine. So you told me you're based in Geelong, which is, for anyone who's not in Australia, that's down, let's say Melbourne. It's close to Melbourne. Is travel something that you and your wife and your daughter or even before your daughter, is traveling something that you're sort of passionate about or something you enjoy doing, or are you more of a homebody, someone who likes to stay in the confines of your own space?
Yeah, we don't travel a whole lot.
Okay.
We're more so just sort of stay at home kind of people.
Yeah.
The only traveling sort of I've done is back in younger days. You go with your group of mates just to go somewhere for a holiday, like to like Thailand or the Gold Coast. But
yeah,
don't have much of a memory of those because most of those holidays you spend drunk. So
you do. That's right. Yes, and maybe it's a good thing. And being in Geelong, I mean, for me, first thing that comes to mind is AFL. Are there, outside of basketball, I mean, you've got, if we go through the different hashtags, you've got hashtag basketball, hashtag footy, hashtag hockey, hashtag baseball, and hashtag football. So footy and football, is one of those AFL?
Yeah, one of them's AFL. That's sort of a newish one that sort of spun up just to see how it went.
Yeah, and so you're right. You go.
I was going to say, my aim was to have, since hashtag basketball sort of got a fair bit of traction, I want to try and replicate that for other fantasy sports.
Yeah,
just to see how that went. So that's the idea behind all the other hashtag websites.
And so, you're obviously AFL. You have to have some sort of an interest in it to make a website about it. So, is Geelong your team, or have you got another team that you follow?
I go for the team that's the opposite of Geelong. I go for the Hawks. So they're for people not familiar with footy, it's kind of like your Lakers versus Boston.
Yeah,
they're really big rivals. My wife's a big Cats fan. Most of her family are Cats fans. Okay. So there was a couple of the the 2008 grand final was a fun time. Yeah, it's always fun watching like close prelim games together. It's and Hawthorn aren't up there at the moment, but a bit of a rebuilding phase for you guys. Whereas your wife would have been very happy last year with Geelong winning. Yeah, she was pretty happy, and our daughter got converted to a Cats fan, so I lost that battle.
That's a shame.
I lost it to Cats.
Yeah. Okay. So for the out of curiosity, I suppose the hashtag basketball was the first sport that you did. Yep. Moving over and doing footy and baseball, those sorts of things, is it quite easy? Like, is it quite easy to replicate that once you've done it once, or is there still a ton of work that has to go? Obviously, you've got to get the stats and projections, all that sort of stuff, but is there you've got a base template now that you can work with?
Yeah, I spent a bit of time rebuilding hashtag basketball a couple of years ago to make it so I could scale it to other websites easier. There is a fair bit of an overlap between stuff like your baseball and hockey because they're mostly category based, and they've also got a points league version. So there's a bit of overlap between those. NFL fantasy, probably the most unique in the terms where it's purely just points-based league, and it's different to how they play it. So like positional rankings are a lot more important in NFL fantasy because so with basketball, it's like positions don't really matter as much, but with hockey, you have to you can draft goalies that only get goalie stats. Baseball, you got pitchers that are only pitcher stats. So there's a lot of similarities, but then there's also a fair bit of differences that you need to factor in.
Yeah. So a lot of work. I mean, and even once it's set up, there'd be a lot of maintenance, that sort of thing. If you have to ballpark a figure, how many hours a week do you think you'd spend doing fantasy stuff?
I think I estimated about 1,000 hours a year I do it on. So it's probably about 3 hours a night. So maybe, I'd say about 20 hours a week.
Okay. So your wife's obviously very understanding to let you do that.
I could not do any of this if she wasn't on board with it, or else I wouldn't have a wife anymore. She'll be gone.
No. Yeah. And is she into fantasy sports or sports in general? I mean, you've said she goes for Geelong. But would you call her a sports person or a sports fanatic?
She grew up with 4 older brothers, so she grew up in a family that are very into sports. One of her brothers is in our dynasty league that we've been in for a couple of years, so I've got the family on board.
Very good.
Yeah, not too big on it. There was back in the earlier days, one season in our redraft league, we tried to get our partners and now wives involved in our league just to see how interested they were. She went with the Kardashian strategy where she drafted based on the play she knew based on relationships with the Kardashians. So she took Lamar Odom, I think, in the 2nd round.
Okay.
So so she didn't want to come back the next season.
No, okay.
Was it too fun for her?
No, fair enough. But I mean, look, great that she's on board. I think, and again, the majority of the analysts that I have spoken with, if they are in a relationship, they all have very understanding partners because we wouldn't be able to do this without that because it isn't the major sort of source of income or anything for a lot of us. It's more of a hobby that has taken over a certain aspect of our life. So you're in a dynasty league. So is that the one you mentioned that you've been in for about 18 years?
So we started mostly redraft. We started dynasty maybe, I think, 8 years ago from memory.
Okay.
Yeah, ran about 8 years ago.
And so you've got that league going on, and then do you still do redraft leagues with those guys as well every year?
Yeah, we've noticed the more and more we go on, people kind of lose a bit of interest in redraft because we're so invested in our dynasty league.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, we still do both. But most of us are just heavily invested in our dynasty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stuff. So on the sort of one thing that I do talk about fantasy a little bit when I'm doing these interviews is Victor Wembanyama and the draft from the lottery that's been, the draft that's upcoming. We're assuming he's going to go first pick, go to the Spurs. I don't think there's much debate around that. From a fantasy perspective, though, in Dynasty, he's going to go number 1 if you've got a rookie draft. But if you were to look at Dynasty rankings, where would you have Wembanyama at the moment?
I haven't updated my dynasty rankings to put rookies in just yet. I'm going to wait for the draft to happen first. But he would probably be somewhere around about top 5. It's unprecedented to put a rookie that high in your dynasty rankings since the player hasn't played a game yet. But there's just too much. There's too much going for him to not end up being a sort of a really, really good player.
Yeah,
his fantasy sort of skill set and his fantasy makeup, he's awesome in almost every single category. So it's hard. Yeah, it's hard not to see a player with that kind of skill set to not being like a really elite player.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think Matt Lawson's got him at 3, I think, in his rankings. And we've done a couple of dynasty mocks and he's gone at 3. And I think I took him at pick 2 in a dynasty mock. And I don't know if it was a real league, whether I'd take him at 2, but I just wanted him on my team. So I took him at 2.
Yeah.
So looking ahead to next season, redraft formats, 2 parts, I suppose. Where would you like to be getting him in a redraft league? So perfect world, perfect situation. What sort of range would you be comfortable drafting him in? But then also, where do you think his ADP sort of ends up? Like, I think it's going to be higher than where a lot of us are comfortable taking him. But so where would you be comfortable, and then where do you see his ADP?
I would be comfortable taking him sort of at the 2-3 turn, but he'll be gone by then. Like most people would draft him probably the 1 to 2 turn. Like I can see him. Yeah, I can see his ADP being in like the 14, 16 range. I normally start doing my projections in August, but I'm a little bit worried how high he's going to come up. Like I got a feeling he's going to be super high in my projection model, just because of that skill set. It's kind of like kind of like a hybrid of your Porzingis and Jaren Jackson Jr., but without sort of the negative impact. So yeah, he'll be coming out pretty high.
Yeah, it's sort of, as you said, it's sort of one of those situations where it's a bit unprecedented. We've never seen a player like this before, so it's hard to know. But I think, so my initial ranks, which I did probably a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, I had him at 35. And I think most analysts are sort of ideally hoping to get him, as you've sort of said, anywhere from sort of 25 through to 35 in that range. But his ADP is not going to, it's going to be way above that. And I think, I think a lot of people are going to be taking him on the turn at the end of the first round, and just sort of hoping for the best. But I think his floor, like just the blocks alone, give him a pretty good fantasy floor, as we saw with Jaren Jackson, as we've seen with Miles Turner. Rudy Gobert, not so much this season, just gone, but prior to that, anyone who can average over 2 blocks a game, shoot efficiently, is going to be top 40, top 50. I mean, Walker Kessler was a top 50 player down the stretch. So I think his floor is pretty safe, and just that upside is so enticing that if you want him, you're going to have to reach and take him anywhere, from 10 to sort of 14 or 15. So it's going to be it's going to be interesting and much higher than any other rookie has ever gone.
But the only thing going against him, which probably not that big of a deal because a lot of players miss games now, is he's on the Spurs. So the Spurs are load management kings. So they're not gonna push him out there and play 35 minutes a game for the sake of it. They're gonna sort of grow him, like get him more comfortable and sort of let him organically grow into his role. So people, I can see people drafting him early and getting annoyed that they drafted him so early at the start of the season. But he'll, I think he'll come good as the season comes along and sort of hit that probably early round rankings by the end of the season in your per game.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we know that nowadays load management, rest is just it's a way of life when it comes to the NBA. So average games played is not 75, 73 like it used to be. It's more around the mid-60s. So I don't know, figure he might miss 20 games. So he might still play 60, which is not ideal, but it's not as bad as it was sort of 5 years ago or 6 years ago. So we'll see.
That was the big thing doing my projections for last season, is projecting games played, and I hardly projected anyone to play more than 70 games. I think there was maybe Carl Bridges stood out as one of the few players that I had projected to play over 70.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's the obvious one because of his stupidly long record of games played. Jokic is another one, I suppose, that most people go, oh, yeah, he'll play most games. But this year he actually missed a few. I don't know how many he played. I haven't got the numbers in front of me, but I'm sure he was mid-70s, low to mid-70s probably.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So look, that's everything. We've covered it all. Bang on 10:30. So this will be coming out a bit later, but we're actually both about to go off and watch Game 3, or at least have it on in the background while we work, and see if Denver. Any predictions for tonight's game?
I'd like to see Denver win. If they're going to win this series, they have to win this one. You'd have to think.
Yeah,
I think, we need Michael Porter Jr. needs to sort of pass a bit more. He just needs to pass. It's okay to pass. So
yeah. I think there was that. I saw a still shot or something on Twitter of him taking a jump shot sort of from top of the key, and there were 3 guys just open under the basket. Hit one of them. It's Jokic just standing there with no one around him. I'd be passing to him, but
they got so many shooters on their team. It's just
I know.
It's frustrating to watch Denver sometimes when so much ball movement, and then he gets to him and he just dribbles and tries to put a shot up.
Yeah, we'll see. I hope they win as well. But you can't write Miami off given what we've seen over the last 2 months or whatever it's been. They've been defying the odds. So time will tell. We'll see when this show comes out whether Denver did manage to get up and win it all. Before I let you go, you've said, you're not great at promoting what you do, but let people know where they can find you and what you've got sort of coming up over the next few months in the lead up to the season.
I'm probably one of the few people in this space that doesn't actively use Twitter. Mm-hmm. I looked back at my Twitter profile the other day, and I actually forgot to mention #basketball last season just altogether. So don't follow my path if you're trying to get into the fantasy industry. Just go to #basketball.com. Basically, that's all my stuff you can find there. Next couple of months, I'm currently working on #baseball to get it, add a couple extra things on there, and then I'm going to shift to #football, and then start of August I'll get back to #basketball and add some more functionality on there. My aim with #basketball is every off season I want to add one really big feature to it. So I've got to try and work out what that's going to be. It might be something in the AI space. The AI space is growing really dramatically at the moment, so I might try and tap into that. Okay, well, be exciting to see what you add, and anyone go and check out #basketball.com. That will do it for today's show. Remember, you can check out all of our content at fbibasketball.com. Matt Lawson's got all the Dynasty stuff going on there. My player ranks are up there, and once the draft is done in a few weeks, I'll be launching our regular weekly show with Dr. A, and I will be co-hosting that. You can follow us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. That would be great. Until next time, catch up.
You just listened to another episode from the Fantasy Basketball International Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us. And for more information about joining our community, please check out our website at fbibasketball.com.